Hey, coaches, welcome back to Big Rule of the World. I'm Coach Allen, and welcome to episode 9. We are not doing our deep dive into the wing tee, but if you came for the deep dive into the wing tee, please stay around. Remember to hit subscribe and to follow us on Twitter at football_Allen. We also have a Facebook group, Big Rule of the World, so make sure you connect with us on there. I'm Matthew Allen on Facebook, so you can get at me and ask any questions or just talk. I love to talk football anytime. Today, we're going to be doing a little bit shorter episode. We're going to be talking about why I believe all offensive coordinators need to coach or have some experience coaching offensive line. And for some of you guys who are, how do I call you? How do I call these offensive guys? The offensive gurus out who've been drawing up their passing schemes. We're going to throw the rock 60, 70 times a game. Yeah, believe it or not, I'm an offensive line coach, and I've thrown the ball over 30 times a game. I'm an offensive line coach, and I run air raid. Go figure. It can be done. I don't think we have to, look at offensive line coaching offensive coordinators and skill coaching offensive coordinators as two sort of separate fraternities. But I really think if you want to be a successful offensive coordinator, you have to know what your big boys are doing up front. We love to attack coverages. We love to attack schemes. We love to draw up our perfect routes, but then we can't protect them because we don't know how to develop pass pro. We don't know how to develop a run game behind it. So I got 4 major reasons that I would want you to be involved in the offensive line if you are the offensive play caller. Okay, and before we get into that, I just want a little sample here. This guy, big popular guy with the air raid community, is Mike Leach. Probably I guess this is the Air Raid Bible, Swing Your Sword, sort of an autobiography. I'll tell you, I've read through it like 2 or 3 times, and prior to this show, I was flipping through it and thinking I need to read through it a 4th time. It's the book that got me into wanting to run the air raid. Want to know something interesting? The guy who is probably the preeminent most air raid guy right now in college football started as an offensive line coach at Iowa Wesleyan. Didn't play football at BYU. Is coach Little League baseball and crap. He's a lawyer. Nothing wrong with being a lawyer. I come from a family of lawyers, and I decided to be a teacher and a football coach. Go figure. But, I like that book. Very good read if you like biographies. Very good read if you like football coaching. I'll put the link in my description. But I think it's one that if you're really thinking about offenses and you want to see sort of a guy's journey there, Go hook up with Mike Leach. How Mummy still says he's the best offensive line coach the Air Raid's ever had. So 4 major reasons. Number 1, you're better able to understand what your team is capable of. My first 2 years, when I got to Chatham, I wasn't the offensive line coach. I was the offensive play caller in year 2 through 4. And I'm going to tell you right now, I was trying to call power and G and kick out stuff, and we did not have the right personnel. My offensive coordinator my first year coached running backs, and he tried to call a lot of power and counter, and we didn't have the right personnel up front to do that type of stuff. We were weak, and we really weren't fast enough to pull. We got better in years 3 and 4, and we became better at pulling, and we were able to become more of a power-based offense. But now, when I got into coaching the offensive line again in year 3. And I spent majority of my life coaching offensive line. It was one of those inherited coaching situations my first 2 years where I sort of, I took whatever job we needed to be filled. We had a guy who could coach offensive line, so I let him do it. In retrospect, I wouldn't do that again. I would coach. And I'll get to that in a little bit later. But, you're understanding what your team's capable of. I figured out for us at Chatham, we were weaker up front. We needed that double team block. We needed down blocks big time. And that's what we did with our inside zone game. If you go back to my first episode, I talked about inside zone. We based it all off of double teams and down blocks. Double teams and down blocks, read guy. Double teams, down blocks, read guy. And it basically was like running power without pulling. Number 2, you better be able to orchestrate the run game. I think a lot of times guys are sort of picking and grabbing plays that they like, and nothing ever flows together. You need to set up a run game that complements your passing game, a passing game that complements your run game to create an offensive system. Set up a run game. I've talked about, as I go to the whiteboard here, I've talked about in our system how the inside zone game, read this guy, set right here, can also set up our bash game. Read this guy, he's coming here, tell about stretching. Can also set up our flash game. We got motion handoff right there. Okay, and then also it sets up our power game. Run time complements your offense. You know, one of the things I've been enjoying about my new school is we have a lot of compliments off of one particular run play. I won't give away what it is. We have a lot of compliments off of it where we can keep blocking the same, but now we have more in our bag, tricks. I think if you're not well-versed in offensive line play, you don't realize how valuable that can be. Number 3, your offense will be handled with more care. When you're creating this type of stuff like I just drew up on the whiteboard, you're taking the care to find stuff that goes together, stuff that complements one another. I talked in the wing tee about series of plays where you can tell if somebody makes a tackle here, this is the play we have to run to complement that. You get that now. And number 4, your offense will have a Mr. Fix-It. One of the things I did not like when I turned the offensive line over was I grew up and I was coached by a guy who, you know, would get the board out and would fix stuff during the game on the sidelines, who were fix stuff at halftime, who knew how to block. My offensive line coach, great guy, but his way to fix stuff was to say, you know, you got to move your feet, you got to stay low. Well, you know, I'm all about let's draw something up. If I have to go from, say, on power at a 10 personnel, pulling a guard, to now I have to pull a tackle. Here, I'll give you a little tidbit of what I'm talking about here. So we had a team, this was back when I was a JV offensive line coach. I remember this one. They would actually put that guy at 4. That guy's at 1, 3. They almost had 2-2. I take it back here. I'm trying to remember, and they had 2 eyes. So just sort of inside shade a little bit on the guard. 2 head-up techniques on the tackle. Okay, this guy was pinching so hard when we would go to run our power or our trap game that he would get in the guard's hip pocket. This tackle couldn't root him out. Okay? And again, the 1 technique's pinching down. They were trying to flow everything, pinch, and get their outside linebacker to come make the play outside. Not bad strategy. They had some good athletes. What we started doing is we're going to fold fan block back here. Okay, and we made this adjustment in game. Now we can boom, boom. This guy gets lost in the sauce because there's just so much congestion going on right there. And now my tackle's coming and kicking him. We call that a toad call. And we'd be pulling and kicking out tackle. We started doing that to a couple different teams who tried to like take their ends and shoot them to follow our guards because we were a big guard pull team. But that's an in-game adjustment you make. I think as an offensive coordinator, you're able to see different fronts and solve them easier. Whereas if, you know, you prepare for a 4-3 the entire week and you have no background in offensive line play and you prepare for a 4-3, 4-3, 4-3, 4-3, 4-3, and they come out and they give you a 3-4. You got to be able to adjust to it. I think with a background in offensive line play, you're easier to be able to do that. You've got a Mr. Fix-It on the sidelines in yourself. Those are my 4 big reasons. Certainly, you know, there's some merit in, you know, coaching the skill guys, coaching the backs, coaching the receivers. Guys, I was a primary offensive line guy. I was able to go in and learn enough about receivers, and enough about quarterbacks for us to install the air raid and lead the region in passing. Now, I had other guys who were more well-versed coaching those positions, but I learned enough to know what we needed to do. And for me, a lot of times when we did spring ball, I would be working with receivers or quarterbacks or, just based on whatever coach was there. When we went to the air raid, we really had to buckle down and I had to bounce sometimes. So, I felt like I had a better ability to bounce coming from offensive line play than I would have coming from receiver, quarterback, that type of background. Those are just 4 major reasons why I would say all offensive coordinators need a little background in that offensive line play. It'll help you. I'm telling you, offensive line play will make you a better coach. If you're going to look at Mike Leach and tell me that coaching offensive line didn't help him become better, I'm going to tell you you're wrong. Okay? If Mike Leach can do it, you can do it. All right? And remember, coaches, the real number one goal is we want to score big no matter what position we're coaching. If you want to score big, you want to get points, get wins, you got to dominate in the trenches. And if you want to dominate in the trenches, you got to remember that bigs rule the world. Thank you, coaches. See you next time.